My sister's call came in at 7:14 in the morning, and I let it ring. The surgical drain in my left side pulled when I shifted, so I didn't shift. The phone vibrated on the nightstand twice more before it stopped. For minutes later, my mother called. I let that one ring too. When the second call ended, I reached for the pain medication, then changed my mind. I needed my head clear for what was coming next. I picked up the phone with my right hand. My left arm couldn't go above my shoulder yet. I scrolled to a name I hadn't called in 7 years. Daniel Morrison, estate attorney. He'd handled my grandmother's trust the year I graduated law school. The phone rang once before he picked up. He said my name like a question.
Daniel, I said.
I need you to pull every account my father has.
Today.
And don't tell anyone you're doing it. He didn't ask why. He asked, how fast? I looked at the dressing on my chest. 36 hours since they removed the tumor. Faster than that. Before I take you back to where this started, welcome to Midnight Drama Stories. If you've ever discovered something about your family that changed everything, stay with me. Drop your time zone in the comments. I love knowing where you're listening from. To understand why I ignored my mother's call that morning, I have to go back 8 weeks. Back to Thanksgiving in the house I grew up in, with the same turkey my mother had been making for 30 years. The last meal we ate as a family before any of us knew what was missing. My name is Rachel Chun. I'm 34 years old. I work as a hospital administrator. I have a husband, Michael, and I live 45 minutes from my parents. Just far enough that nobody asks me to drop by on weekdays. Just close enough that I have no excuse to skip holidays. My diagnosis was 3 weeks old that Thanksgiving. Stage 1 breast cancer. I told my parents the week before. They cried, asked when the surgery was, then moved on to whether I'd need chemotherapy. I hadn't told my sister yet. Emily lived 6 blocks from my parents. She had 3 kids and a husband whose business was always being described as in transition. Emily had a way of saying in transition like she was the only person in the family who'd ever dealt with real problems. That Thanksgiving, she brought a folder. Mom had set the table by 9 that morning. The good china, cloth napkins ironed twice a year. By the time we arrived at noon, the turkey was resting under a dish towel, and the kitchen smelled like sage and butter. Emily and her husband Greg arrived at 12:30 with their kids. She'd brought sweet potato casserole. She'd also brought a leather folder which she set on the counter by the coffee maker and didn't mention during lunch. After dessert, Mom and I cleared dishes. We washed and rinsed the way we'd done since I was 9. Emily came in at the end with the folder. Mom, while I've got you, I just need you to sign these. Mom dried her hands on her apron. It's that bank thing we talked about, Emily said. To simplify Dad's accounts so they don't keep calling about every form. All right, sweetheart. Mom signed where Emily pointed. She signed slowly, with the blue Sharpie she kept in the drawer. Emily slid a second sheet across, then a third. Then she slid 4 small slips of paper across that I recognized even from the doorway as checks. Dad asked me to deposit these while he's at the lake house. He keeps forgetting. Mom signed those too. On the back. Endorsements. I was standing in the doorway, with a wine glass in my hand. I heard every word. I watched my mother sign her name on the back of 4 checks in a kitchen she'd stood in for 30 years. I watched Emily tuck them into the folder. I watched Mom go back to the sink. 2 weeks to surgery. I had a tumor in my left breast and a calendar full of pre-op appointments. I didn't have room for a folder. I let it pass. We left at 5. The light had that soft gold of a November afternoon. Emily was at her car loading her daughter's booster seat. The folder was under her other arm. She lifted the trunk and slid the folder in flat. As she closed it, she looked up. Not at me exactly, but past me at the house. A small, contained smile came over her face. The kind of smile you wear when something went exactly the way you wanted. She didn't see me see her. Michael started the car. I turned forward and didn't say anything for the first 15 miles. Emily was supposed to drive me to pre-op. We'd arranged it a month earlier. She'd written it on her calendar in green marker. Rachel pre-op, 7:30 a.m. She texted at 9 the night before. Jake's basketball game moved to 9 o'clock. Greg can't take him.
I'm so sorry.
Mom said she'd come. Mom was at my door by 6:45. She wore her navy coat, the one she only wore to church and doctor's appointments. She brought a thermos of coffee and a paperback. In the waiting room, she held my hand. She hadn't held my hand since I was probably 10. Her hand was thinner than I remembered. The skin on her knuckles was loose. "Your father's been different," she said, watching the hallway door. "I don't know how to say it. He's at the lake house every weekend now.
More than he used to be.
His phone is always face down." I was about to answer when the nurse called my name. Mom squeezed my fingers once, the way she used to before piano recitals. "I'll be right here," she said. After surgery, when Michael and Mom were both in recovery, Mom had to go feed the parking meter. She was gone 20 minutes. Michael told me later he looked out the window and saw her in the driver's seat, both hands on the wheel, engine off, sitting there for a long time. Emily never came. She texted at 6. "Brandon has strep. Can't risk bringing it to the hospital." She texted again at 7:30. "Tell Rachel I love her." Mom read both texts to me out loud. She didn't comment on either one. 2 days later, they sent me home with the drain tube and a list of restrictions. I couldn't lift anything heavier than a coffee cup. I couldn't drive. I couldn't raise my left arm above my heart. The morning after we got home, the phone rang at 6:52. I knew before I picked up. "Rachel, your father had divorce papers served on me at 6 this morning." There was a man at the door. I was still in my nightgown. Her voice was working hard not to break. "I don't understand." "Mom, where are the papers right now?" "On the kitchen table. Put them in the drawer where you keep the bills.
Don't read them again.
Don't show them to anyone yet." "Rachel, he's been my husband for 38 years. "I know, Mom. Just put the papers in the drawer."
Sit down.
"Don't call anyone. I'll call you back in an hour." The phone rang again 4 minutes later.
Emily.
"Rachel," Mom called. "She's a wreck. She can't be alone. I have the kids. Greg's got a job interview. You have to take her in today." "I'll call you back, Emily." "Rachel, she can't be by herself. I'll call you back." I didn't call her back. I sat on the edge of the bed, with the phone in my right hand. My left arm was useless against my chest. Outside, a sprinkler ticked somewhere down the block. I scrolled to Daniel Morrison's name. He picked up on the first ring. "Rachel Chun," he said, like it was a question and an answer. "Daniel, I'm sorry to call like this."
Don't.
"What is it?" I told him.
Not all of it.
The piece I knew. Dad served papers at 6 in the morning. The lake house every weekend. The folder Emily brought to Thanksgiving. The checks Mom endorsed. My surgery. Where I was sitting, and what I couldn't do. He let me finish. There was no sound on the other end. He was that kind of listener. When I finished, he said, "Are you sure you want to know everything? Because once I pull this, we can't put it back." I looked at the dressing on my chest. "Pull it. Give me until Wednesday." Faster. A small sound. Pen on paper. "I'll call you Tuesday." Daniel called Tuesday at 3 in the afternoon. I was in the recliner with a heating pad on my back. The drain had been emptied at noon. 18 milliliters. A good day. Michael was at work. "Rachel, you'd better sit down." "I assume you're already sitting." "I'm sitting." "All right. I have your father's checking, money market, IRA, brokerage accounts. 43 months of statements. Are you ready?" "Yes." Starting in June 4 years ago, on the first business day of every month, there's a wire transfer of $4,400 out of his money market. Same recipient every time. A Florida LLC called Coastal Ventures. I had my paralegal pull the registration. Coastal Ventures is a single-member LLC. The sole member is a woman named Vanessa Pierce. Florida driver's license. Address in Tampa. Date of birth 1968. Do you know that name?
No.
Hold on to it. 43 months, Rachel. That's $188,000. I wrote the number down. I underlined it. How does this happen and Mom doesn't know? That's the second part. The wire instructions weren't issued from your father's terminal. They were submitted electronically from an outside IP address. Not from his laptop, not from the house, from somewhere else. My forensic guy can trace the source by tomorrow. Daniel, my father is 69. He uses a flip phone. He can't reset the cable box without calling customer service. I know. Then who? I heard his chair creak. That's what we're about to find out. Don't ask anyone in your family any questions in the next 18 hours. Not your mother. Not your sister. Not your father. Are we clear? We're clear. 18 hours later, I was sitting in Daniel's office. The elevator had smelled like old books and lemon polish. It was Thursday, 5 days after surgery. Michael had driven me. He waited downstairs. Daniel's office had 2 leather chairs and a window overlooking a parking lot. There was a file open on his desk. There was also a phone on speaker. A man's voice came through. Can confirm the router signature is consistent across all 43 transactions. The MAC address resolves to a residential cable modem. The account is in Riverside Township. The cable account is in the name of Emily Chin, with a P.O. Box billing address. The IP belongs to Emily Chin. I sat very still. Daniel was looking at the speakerphone, not at me. He let the room hold the sentence. Then he said, "Thank you, Marcus. Send me the encrypted summary tonight." He hung up and turned to me. His face didn't change. I appreciated that. He slid a folder across the desk. "This is the document your sister had your mother sign at Thanksgiving. Filed at the county recorder 4 days after the holiday." I opened it. The document was titled, "Revocable Transfer on Death Deed." There was a second document underneath, "Beneficiary Designation Change, Chun Family Trust." The first document deeds the house to Emily on your mother's death. Outside probate. Outside the will. The second changes your mother's trust to pay 100% to Emily. You were a 50% beneficiary. Your name has been removed. I read the page twice. Mom's signature. The same careful loops. "There's a third thing," Daniel said. He slid a single sheet across. "Email correspondence between your father and Emily from the period the wires began. Emily set up the wires. She gave him cover. She's known about Vanessa Pierce for 4 years." I read the chain. "Dad, did you remember the April payment?" "She's expecting it." His reply. "Handling it. Thanks, honey. You're a lifesaver." I closed the folder. The leather chair was cool against my neck. My left side ached in a way I no longer noticed except as background music. "Daniel, did Emily know about my diagnosis before Dad filed?" I looked at him. "I told her 3 weeks before he filed." "All right." She knew the surgery date. She knew I couldn't drive. She knew I'd be on pain medication. "All right." She told me to take Mom in the morning. Dad served the papers. I stopped. Found the word. Strategic. Daniel didn't answer. He let me sit with it. Outside, a single car pulled out of the parking lot. "Rachel," he said finally. "I'm very sorry. That was 6 months ago." Emily pleaded out. Restitution, 2 years probation. The $188,000 came back in monthly payments, ironically the same way it left. Daniel set it up that way on purpose. I think he found it satisfying. My mother's divorce finalized. She got the house plus an offset for what was wired out. Emily hasn't contacted us in 4 months. My surgery site healed clean. No recurrence. I go back to work next month. Mom lives 10 minutes away now. She comes for dinner every Sunday. Last week, washing dishes together, she asked, "Do you ever think about her?" I knew who she meant. "Sometimes," I said, "but not the way I used to." "How do you think about her now?" "Like someone I used to know." Mom nodded. "Me too. Some doors close quietly. You don't need to lock them. You just stop reaching for the handle." This is Midnight Drama Stories. If this resonated, drop a comment. I'll see you in the next one.